feel really corny sitting here with my cup of tea like a little cozy mama, but reality is I'm a struggling mama in a very weird predicament. I'm not hailing from like the normal struggles of motherhood, which I am, because I obviously have those as well, but my birth journey, my pregnancy journey, my motherhood journey is different. I don't know anybody that's been in my situation, and I'm sure there are parts of my story that people can relate to, but I think mine is, I don't know, pretty out there. And I'm just hoping that maybe sharing this part of it, or I mean just sharing it in general, will kind of help me get what I need to like move on. Not move on, because I don't think I ever truly will, because for me it was pretty traumatic, but I just want to feel some type of peace. And I mean, honestly, if I find someone that I can connect with, that would be like awesome, because I do have friends that listen to me. I do have family that listens to me, and I've done therapy. So I've had a therapist who's listened to me, but nobody can connect with what I went through. And that's different, and that's weird, and I get that. But yeah, so I'm just hoping to share my story and kind of like, sorry, I've got a bunch of bug bites on my ankle, and so I'm like scratching, trying not to scratch. But yeah, so that's why I want to share my journey and just hopefully find the peace that will help me like move on. So it starts in like April 2021. Brian and I met on Bumble. We went on some dates. We had sex. I got pregnant. Found out I was pregnant Cinco de Mayo 2021. Freaked out, cried, and I was like, this is not gonna work. Like, this is chaos. Like, this is not the time. This is not the person. This is not any of it. This should not happen. And I told one of my friends when I was in New York, I was like, so I think I might be pregnant. And so before I found out, I was like, I think I might be pregnant. She was like, well, what kind of baby daddy are you about to have? And she was like, and I told her, I was like, oh, well, all things considered, like, that's the good thing, is he seems like a really good guy. Because I'm not attracted to like crappy people as friends, family, or significant others. So just from what I knew of Brian, I was like, this is a good person. Like, if I could be in this situation with anyone, like, at least it's a guy like him. Little did I know. Tell Brian I'm pregnant, and we both want to do different things with the pregnancy. I chose to keep Grayson. And then Brian was like, okay, well, you know, I'll support you guys. Basically, we were just going to co-parent. We weren't like together. And I was like, okay, I'll get my own place in Georgia. We'll co-parent and figure it out. We keep hanging out and then keep being intimate. And so that kind of started to mess with my head, because I was like, nobody in your life knows about me. No family, no friends, no work. And knows about me in a romantic I like her sense, or in the sense of like, I have a baby on the way. If Nikki calls me that she's in the hospital and I need to leave work, I need to leave work. Nobody knew about any of that. So it was like really hard, because I could tell he cared about me just because he did certain things. And he's a sweet guy, but he wasn't doing the steps he wasn't making the steps to walk into fatherhood. He wasn't. His mom didn't know, brothers, best friends, nobody. And it was weighing on him heavy. Like, I felt bad to see him struggle that bad, because my mom was excited. I mean, obviously she thought I was an idiot, but she was excited for a baby, for a life, for a miracle. My sister was supportive. My friends, like, I had a very good support, even though this wasn't like the situation we all wanted. So I got scared seeing Brian not progressing and accepting what was coming, especially when he was about to be my only support in Atlanta. So I made the decision. I talked to my mom, because immediately when I told her I was pregnant, she was like, are you gonna come home? And I was like, no, like, I'm gonna do this, like, I'm a big girl, do it in Atlanta. And then when I just saw Brian like struggling so much, I was like, I have to like put this baby in the best situation. because if I fail here, then I'm failing by myself, and it's going to be harder to get to that support with a newborn and a dog than to just go and start there. So I asked my mom if I could come with Grayson and Deacon, and she was like, yeah, for sure. So I did that. I told Brian, I was like, so I'm going to take the baby to Florida. So my mom's going to help me, and I think that's going to be good. And we had the discussion of like, well, what am I going to do? What am I going to be to the baby? And I was like, you'll be his dad. If you don't want to like be a parent to him, tell me what you want me to tell him when he gets older and asks. And if you want to help, then we'll figure out what that looks like. So before I leave to Georgia, I gave him kind of like an ultimatum. And I was like, look, I don't care that you're not like putting on social media. He's a very private person. I was like, I don't care that you're not like telling friends or even your job, since I'm leaving. They don't need to know, I guess. But I was like, you need to tell your family. His family had been through something really traumatic like the month before I met him. So he was dealing with that, as well as fearing what something else kind of traumatic would do to his family, since they had already just been through something and were getting over that. So I was like, you tell your mom by the time I'm 20 weeks, because that's halfway through my pregnancy, that like that's enough time for you to process, and you need to tell them so they can start processing and like, I don't know, accepting that they have a grandson on the way, that they have a nephew on the way. And I was like, 20 weeks, you tell her I am. Brian, bless his heart, called my bluff, and I am not one to bluff. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. So I sent his mom a letter with an ultrasound. I was like, you don't know me, but we both have someone in common, 2 people now actually. And I told her, I was like, you know, Brian and I have been hanging out. I'm pregnant. I'm due January. I know what just happened to your family. I can relate because it's happened in mine as well. And she called me. Like the second she got the letter, she called me. Like she read it and called. And we talked, and she was really sweet. She was like, I've never heard of you, but you sound so, so nice. And I cried. And I was like, yeah, I was like, I just don't want him to struggle, and I don't know why he's so scared to tell you all, but I figured if maybe I just did it and he got like a positive reaction, then we could just like move on. And then that was actually right before I was leaving for Florida. So I told Brian, and I was like, hey, I spoke to his mom after I told him that I was telling her. So I gave him a heads up, and I was like, so you know, like you might want to talk to your mom within the next couple of days, because I sent her a letter. And he was really angry, which I understand, but I was like, you know, I have my own kid to worry about now, and if being the bad guy and telling your mom helps you somehow like move forward in accepting his arrival, I'll do it. So I did, and Brian was pissed. I ended up moving to Florida by myself. My friend flew and drove my U-Haul for me, and I moved into my mom. My friend and her husband came and unpacked my U-Haul for me. I built the crib by myself, and then I wrote out the rest of my pregnancy by myself, and that was really hard. Brian and I had no communication. I reached out to him, but he wouldn't return any calls or emails or text, again, just because he could not deal with what was coming. And I think that was probably obviously that was the biggest struggle in my pregnancy, was just thinking, like everyone was asking me, like, what are you going to tell Grayson? And I'm like, I don't know, that his dad was like a firefighter and died in a fire. I don't know, that his dad's Santa. I don't know, like, what do you imagine you're going to tell your kid? Like, I don't know, I didn't know what to do. And that was really difficult, because even though I knew that discussion wouldn't happen for a while until Grayson could realize he didn't have a dad, it was still something that like weighed heavy on my heart, because I was like, this is not what I wanted for my kid, even though I knew it was my choice to like keep him. So that was my big struggle, was like, I burst the bubble in his life, and I was like, okay, you can talk about it. You can tell people, you can process, you can move on, you can take the right steps, and that still didn't happen. And that was just frustrating, because I was like, what's happening in that world that's not happening here? Like my whole world changed. My mom's whole world changed. Like everything changed. And over there, like in his life, it was the same. He was traveling for work. I was watching him travel for work. He was playing golf, which is fine. I'm not resentful of any of that. I would never have wanted him to stop living his life. I just would have hoped that he would have like taken the steps to make room for his kid. But they say, you know, a mom becomes a mother when she becomes pregnant, and a dad becomes a dad when he sees his kid. So everyone was like, he just needs time, he needs time. And I was pissed because I was like, I don't get time. I don't walk around with a flat stomach and nobody knows what I'm going through. People see, are you and your husband excited? Are you and your husband? And I'm like, it's just me. He didn't get that. So that made me so mad. Just knowing like he was walking around with no belly. So nobody asked. He didn't have to be uncomfortable, let alone like uncomfortable from actually carrying the baby, which I don't care because Grayson was an angel through pregnancy. But like just my whole life changed. And maybe I'm like struggling, like I can't get over something simple since I did make that choice. I know I made that choice. I don't care that my life was difficult. I don't care that I had uncomfortable, there's no dad conversations. I don't mind that. It just made me mad. Like a man can just literally walk away and there is no repercussion. There is no accountability. Like it blows my mind. Like, and I know he didn't do this maliciously. It sucked. And this part of my journey and this part of Grayson's life sucked. Because he missed out and we can't go back. We can't like redo things. We can't add him into pictures. I mean, I'm sure we could, but like that's not real. And I don't want to be fake. I don't want an aesthetically pleasing life. Like my life looked crappy. It didn't look crappy. I lied. Did not look crappy. Didn't look traditional. And that was a struggle. Another struggle for me was that my pregnancy announcement wasn't this little like themed baby more coming, da-da-da. Nope. It wasn't our little bundle of joy. Like it wasn't any of that. Like I did something that I liked because I was excited. So I was like, I'm not going to not do these things. Like have these like milestone moments in my pregnancy because I don't have a husband, because I don't have a partner, because I don't have a participating parent. No. I made my pregnancy announcement and it was me. People would ask, who's the dad? And I'd be like, I am. And I made it a joke, like, I'll be mom and dad. Because that's what my reality was about to be. But it made me mad still. Like, why can't, I don't know. It's just hard for me to like wrap my mind around that. And I'm sure there are obviously other women that like went through that same thing, like by themselves, like they decided to have a kid. And then you just like wonder, how did like the dads brush their teeth in front of a mirror every morning and look at themselves and not think like, you got someone pregnant and they're keeping it. How do you do that? Or how do you, I mean, maybe you think that, but how do you like suppress it enough to not like do anything? And I didn't need anything for me. I had insurance. I had a great doctor. I was healthy. Baby was healthy. I was fed. So I didn't need him to do anything for me. I needed him to be a parent for Grayson. I needed a dad for that son. And that's just something that made me angry. So angry. Because like I said, I watched him travel. I watched him go to beautiful dinners. I watched him have drinks. I watched him at the golf course, the airport, bar, like awesomeness. And I had a great time too. I had friends who took me out on their boats. I went to California. Like I still went to concerts. I had a great time and a great life being pregnant. But I was just mad that somebody else was able to live theirs so blindly to what's happening. But that is my reality. And thankfully, like it's changed. We took a paternity test after Grayson was born, and that was obviously positive that that's your kid. So they met. I think Grayson was just under 3 months old, so he met Gray. And he's been in his life ever since. Like, and once he found out, it was like that the light switch moment. He started sending me money to help me buy the things I needed for Grayson, because he was on formula and he had an allergy. So that was a struggle on itself. Excuse me. He would order things on Amazon that I said I needed. I'd be like, oh, well, Grayson needs this if you want to get it. And he'd be like, yeah, send me the link. It was very hands-on, as much as he could be from Atlanta when he found out. Which was amazing and still frustrating, which again, like, I don't know, this is something stupid I can't get over or what, but like, how can you be so good? Like, he was so good when I was pregnant in Georgia, and then absent, and then you come back and you're so good. Like, why couldn't you just have been good? And that's what I can't get over, is that like gap period. And that's something that like kind of gives me like PTSD, because I was able to see him be great and then check out and do it perfectly, and then come check back in perfectly. Like, who's to say that doesn't happen again? Because now Grayson and I moved to Georgia when Gray was 10 months old. No, 11 months old we moved to Georgia. No, 10 months old. 10 months old we moved to Georgia. And it's been great. Like, Brian did everything to set up his apartment, baby proofing, getting what we needed here, ordering crib, high chair, and all that stuff. So Grayson's got a full setup here, which is amazing. And Brian's done what he's could. He did what he can to make me feel comfortable within this transition. And I appreciate that. But there's still just so much, I guess, like pain that I'm trying to like work through. Being abandoned pregnant is weird, and then not being able to just consistently hate that person, because you go from like hating them, or I went from hating them, and now he's back and I'm just like, I love this, I love you, I love our family, but fuck, you hurt me. And I'm scared. Like, I mean, I think marriage is a great thing, but to me it doesn't like solidify anything. Like, you spend a lot of money to say you love someone and you're committed to them, and then divorce is still very much a thing. Cheating is still very much a thing. Unhappiness is still very much a thing in marriages. So it's not like I need a ring or something to feel his commitment, because I don't believe that guarantees a forever commitment. But maybe I just need like time. I don't really know. Or maybe I just need to connect with other moms that have been like abandoned in their pregnancies. But then, I don't know. I really don't know what I'm like looking for in this whole like video blog or whatever, because I don't know if I'm gonna get somebody that's like, oh yeah, my baby daddy abandoned me and then came back in the picture and now it's great. But it'd be awesome if there is, and message me if you are that person. But also, if there are moms that have been left pregnant, like, you're not a bad mom. Because I, for a second, thought I was, because like Brian and I looked different. I had, septum piercing. I have tattoos. Like, I like Vans. I like comfy clothes versus like tucked in shirts and I don't know, things like that. So we looked different. I was like, maybe like I just don't fit into his world, and that's like the problem. That like, what would people think? Like, oh, that's the girl you got pregnant? But then I was like, I just did this whole fucking thing by myself. I had a whole fucking baby by myself. I made a whole damn baby by myself. Pushed that whole baby out with the help of my mom, doctors, and Pitocin and an epidural, God bless. But like, I'm an amazing person, and I don't struggle with that part. Me, myself, like individually, not as a mom, just as me, I love myself, and I think I'm great, and I think I'm awesome. But it's just hard when you look back at the story you have and the story that's now written for your kid, and you're like, damn, that sucks. because now that like Gray and I moved into Brian's apartment, like it's small. It's enough for right now, but it's small. So it's hard to not go on like social media, see people who post like their playrooms and their everything, their play gym, their swing set, like the ball pit, the organization, like everything like I want that I can't give Grayson right now. And I'm just like, am I less than because I don't have the same things for him? Am I less than because his nursery doesn't look like other nurseries? Are we less than because we don't have that big backyard? Like those are the things that make me feel less than as a mother. And that sucks because, you know, a friend told me this morning, she was like, I have to remind myself that me not having the like holiday things done that I want isn't taking away from the joy of my baby. And that's what I have to remember Grayson's whole life, is that he doesn't know any different, that he doesn't have like a massive bedroom with a freaking swing on the ceiling. He doesn't know different, and he's pumped to have what he has. But social media and society and traditional views make it hard sometimes for me to feel okay. They make it hard for me to feel like I'm doing a good job. They make it hard for me to feel like I'm doing enough. That's one thing I struggle with a lot now, is like having the mom and dad in the picture. And I'm still like, that's not enough for Gray. Like he needs this and that. And that stinks because he doesn't know. Like he's happy. He's so happy when his dad comes home. He's so happy when I pick him up. You know, he's so happy when he plays with his balloon. But because our life doesn't look like other people's lives, I just feel like I'm not giving what he deserves. And that's a big struggle for me. It's like our pictures aren't coming out perfect. He's not going to remember that his life was perfect. Like that's not a real reality. Like your baby's not going to look back and be like, Mom, you could have framed this better. Do you not love me? Is that why you didn't frame it better? Like they're not going to know. They're not going to look back and be like, you didn't do that picture trend of 2022. Did you not love me? Like he's never going to know that stuff. But he will look back and be like, oh my gosh, I remember when I went to grandma's and she had that for me. Or even like, not that he'll remember this because obviously he's 11 months old, but I can tell him that stuff. And like, that's where he'll feel that love. So that's just something I need to like engrave in my brain, like every day, multiple times a day, when I start feeling like I'm a crappy mom. Because I'm not, and he is loved and he's healthy and thriving. But I don't know, I guess I just hope that I start to remember, and that other moms or dads or families remember that like looking different doesn't make it less than for them. I think I need to like go write that on the bathroom mirror. And if you listen to this song to me ramble about my life and my story, thanks. I'm sure people that know me now are like, ooh, so that's what really happened. And that is what really happened. It was never a secret and never anything I was trying to hide, just something I wanted to tell when I felt ready. And I guess I do, since now I'm trying to like move on from that and heal and survive motherhood with a running freaking 11-month-old that finds what is not baby proofed. So again, thanks for listening, and any feedback appreciated. And if you honestly have any questions, like feel free to ask, and I'm a pretty open book, so I'll answer. Have a good one, guys.